Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now.
Because there's a lot of people that are jacked up and everybody's trying to change everybody. You can't change people.
No.
They've got to want to change, and they've got to want to open themselves up to new learnings and new experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like we do here on the Edge.
All right.
Brains, I have an amazing guest today. Do you have a nasty habit? And yes, I'm going to say it's a nasty habit because it is for so many different reasons. Am I being judgmental? Absolutely. Okay, now I own it. But smoking is so unattractive. It is so 1940. And there's nothing wrong with the 1940s, but in 1940, it was sexy to smoke. It was sexy to have, a cigarette holder or have a cocktail in your hand and you're sitting there at the piano bar. But now it is a toxic cesspool. And I'm going to tell you my story with cigarettes and why I quit. A lot of people are stressed out. A lot of people are going through a lot of anxiety right now due to the fact of COVID. They're at home. They've lost their jobs. Their relationships are in peril. And so what do? Oh, and they're eating too much. And then what they doing? They smoking. They living because they smoking. But it's killing you, Brains. So we have a stop smoking expert. I mean, an expert. She's been doing it for 40 years. There she is right there. Lela Bryan. She lives on a floating house too. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about her dreams and aspirations and how she's going to help us smoke. But I'm going to ask her about a lot of smoke, not just cigarette smoke. Okay, so let's welcome her to the Edge here with me, Lela Bryan. How are you, baby?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you. I've been checking you out and checking out some of the other interviews that you do. So tell me, number one, how in the world did you end up living on a floating house?
Well, I am originally from Seattle, and I got married, and he lived in a floating home, so I moved here, and I've been here since 2006, and then we got divorced, but I loved living in the community so much I stayed here.
Wow, well, that's exciting. So what is it like when the weather's bad and you're rocking back and forth? Is it
you do a little rocking and rolling, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. The first 2 months that I lived here, I had to wear one of those C-bands that you wear at on a cruise or something. But now I could go anywhere on a boat.
Yeah, I know. The first time I was on a cruise, I made the biggest mistake. I decided to work out on the elliptical.
Probably not the best idea.
It was not the best experience. I was nauseous the rest of the day. But I use those little patches. So there's a band that you can put on your arm as well to control it.
Yes, it's called a C-band. Yeah.
So that's for motion sickness, period, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's talk about the sickness of smoking. Tell me about, because it is a disease, Brains. You can get mad at me all you want, and you can light up one while we're talking. Maybe encourage you to quit. Tell us how you got involved with this cigarette smoking.
Yeah, I quit smoking June 4th, 1978, and I would have smoked in the shower if I could have kept them lit. I loved smoking, and I went to a program to quit. They're no longer around anymore, but I loved it so much that the program that I was able to quit, and then they wanted to have some trainers, and so I trained with them, and eventually I developed my own program, and literally I've taught all over the world people how to quit smoking, in United States, Canada, South Africa, I've been all over the world teaching people how to quit smoking. And I teach them in a real different method, because most of the methods out there are cold turkey, or they're, they tell them to do a drug or something like that. And I have people smoke while they're learning how to quit, and they change their behaviors and their routines. And by the time they're ready to quit, 6 weeks into it, then they're ready, prepared, and they don't feel like they got hit by a freight train or lost their best friend.
Well, let me tell you, it is a drug. Let me tell you my ugly experience, Brains. You know, I love to tell you a story.
Okay.
So I'm, a little stressed out. No, I was real pissed off. So I go up to the local, liquor store. After I get my lottery ticket, I said, well, you know what? Let me get a pack of cigarettes. I'm not going to name the brand. I'm not going to have them put a bullseye on my back, but I got one. And I come home and I go in the backyard. I got to hide from Mr. Magnificent, because he squares a pool table and just as green. He don't smoke. He don't drink. I love it. I'm in the back because I got to get the cigarette smell off me, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm puffing and I'm puffing. All of a sudden, Lela, I have a allergic reaction to the cigarette.
Oh no.
Baby, my lips started to quiver. Every endorphin in my body started to shiver. Then I started seeing welts. Then my heart started racing. I was like, well, what is in this pack here? I had never felt that before. And I told Father God, I said, let me tell you, if I come through this okay and don't have a stroke or heart attack or something, you don't have to worry about me ever curling my lips around a cigarette again.
So that was your first cigarette?
No, I was a closet smoker. I smoked, but I'd have a pack, and the pack would go stale before I get finished. Right. But that little nicotine rush, that was good because it was a drug. But now there are so many pesticides and chemicals and inside the cigarettes, and also inside weed. We're gonna talk about that too. That's smoking. And these vaping, that's smoking. Because I was telling my husband, I said, there's a lot of people that smoke weed. What's wrong with that? He goes, smoke is smoke. There's respiratory problems that people are having, heart palpitations. And smoking is so unattractive now. Somebody can smoke a cigarette and you can smell it 4 houses away. It's nasty. So what do you say to that person that is just stressed out and the first thing they do is reach for the nicotine?
Well, it's really is a habit, and it's probably one of the, if you had 100 of the most popular drugs, heroin, cocaine, cigarette smoking, they've noticed that most people will get hooked on cigarettes more than any other drug. And so it really is not something that you can just throw away or just get rid of and say, I'm just going to do that. Because I have a huge Facebook group that I believe in, slowly changing your behaviors. But in this one group, I have a lot of people that have quit smoking cold turkey, just thrown the pack away. And a lot of them have been to the emergency room 3 or 4 times and had all kinds of tests and x-rays and EKGs and MRIs. And at the real deal is that you can't just throw the pack away, because your body, there was a book years ago, it's called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it was by a physician that was, he was a plastic surgeon, and every time somebody would lose a limb, he'd do the surgery on them, and he would notice that they had a phantom limb for about 21 days. And so what he described was that when people are changing their behaviors, their mind and their body take 21 days to really make or break a habit. And so you can't just throw the pack away. It's, you need
you
to
know what,
change your behavior.
maybe other people can't, but if you had that experience that I had, you'd want to throw it away and bury it because it's awful. But like you said, there's a lot of people that go to the emergency room. Is that because of the withdrawal of the nicotine?
Yes. And a lot of people some people think they're actually dying because it's so intense. And you had a reaction one way, but there's other people that after they quit, they tend to have those strong reactions too. And I even wrote a book, and it was called Quit Smoking, Got Side Effects. And I was going over all the side effects that people have, and people don't even realize how many side effects there are when you quit cold turkey.
Yeah, I mean, nicotine headaches. It's it's like withdrawing from any other drug.
Oh yes, yeah.
Like right now, I'm trying to withdraw from sugar. I started to, and so I'm gonna go through it, but it's a part of the process because you've got to make the change. You've got to want to do it.
Yeah, and actually, I can teach people how to want to do it, because there's a lot of people that have gone through my program that maybe their spouse wanted to quit smoking, and they were a smoker too, and they said, "Oh, I'll sit through the class, but I don't really want to do it." And actually, I was able to teach them how to want to quit smoking. Because
okay, well, give me a couple examples of what you would tell a person that wants to quit smoking.
Well, you mean that does want to quit smoking or doesn't?
Well, doesn't, but you're going to convince them that they may want to quit smoking.
Right. Okay, there's one of the things that I do is, and this is good for people that are smokers or people that want somebody to quit smoking. And there are 3, you can do this little technique to either motivate yourself or know how to motivate someone, because what you don't want to do is get your employees to quit. You say, "Oh, I want you to quit smoking," or your best friend to quit smoking, and for you to be a jailer for them, and have to go around and say, are you still not smoking, or something like that. So there's 3 reasons. So we'll back up and figure out why people start smoking in the very beginning. And the first reason that people, which is the most common, that start smoking is peer pressure or your environment. And a lot of people will say, "Well, I grew up in a family where my parents smoked," or because that was in the environment, or I had all my friends, were trying it and smoking. So peer pressure and environment are the main reason that people start smoking. And then the second reason that people start smoking is their parents say, "Now don't you smoke," and that would be a good way to make them mad. So then you rebel against that information or that advice. And then the third reason that people start smoking is to look older and more sophisticated. And so there's a saying that the way that you do anything is the way that you do everything. Wow. And so if it worked for you one time for you to get peer pressure to smoke, then if we turn it around and say it worked one time in reverse. So let's take it in reverse. And nowadays, peer pressure would be that everybody, all your friends quit smoking, and you're the last one to quit smoking. And maybe to use that pressure, peer pressure, to help you support yourself to quit smoking. Right. And now the environment, there's hardly any environments these days where people smoke. I mean, it's just like, even at airports, when you check in, if you're a smoker, you have to check back out again and then run back in, and it's really a hassle. And and then most buildings are 25 feet away that you smoke.
And the cost of smoking
Yes, and we'll
But
get into
I
that.
mean, they tax these cigarette manufacturers to the nine.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And
there's a habit to smoking.
mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so it is this.
Right.
It's the comfort. Uh,
Right.
it's the I used to like that when you smoke and then you make the smoke swirl around in your mouth and inhale.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to learn that. Yeah.
You
Those
gotta
are one
learn.
of the things you learn.
And then what you're doing is you're putting it through your whole track. It's going in your mouth, down your throat, up and back out through your nose,
Oh yeah, everywhere.
and then everything straight up to your brain through your blood system. What are some of the impacts or some of the feelings that people have when they quit smoking? What are some of the sensations that they feel?
Well, they think, and if you listen to any kind of doctor, they say, quit smoking, it'll be great. It'll be really good for your health. And actually, just the opposite happens when you first quit smoking. They feel like they've got what they call the smoker's flu. And they usually get a cough, and that's from the body cleaning out the system so that you can, you there's a lot of it's almost the consistency of molasses.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I've heard people say they like that phlegm.
right.
Yeah, that phlegm when they cough it up is thick and it has that nicotine. Yeah, they like that.
Right. So what happens is they, their their body's cleaning it out, but they don't know that. So and you mentioned COVID. So there's three main things with this smoker's flu that when some people quit, that they notice is it's a cough, and they feel like someone's like sitting on their chest. And then there's a lot of people get fatigue. And if you add one more thing to that, would be having a fever, then you'd have all the symptoms of COVID-19. And so a lot of times these days, people that want to quit and they quit cold turkey and they didn't know that they needed to change their behavior slowly will end up in a hospital, and they'll say, I'm fatigued, I've got a cough, and I feel like something's, sitting on my chest, and they'll be putting them in the COVID ward, so
But it also affects your blood pressure, your
it
heart rate,
affects everything. Yeah.
your digestive system, because I have a friend that tells me that she can't really go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement without smoking a cigarette.
Exactly. Cigarettes act in the body like a laxative. And so it's mainly because all the rest of the food is scared of it. And so it just leaps through your body,
Wow.
And when people quit smoking, then they get constipated because they don't have that laxative anymore.
Mm-hmm. Now, I had an emergency medical doctor that works on COVID. And in addition to that, she's an addiction specialist. And we talked about the truth about marijuana. It used to be, Lela, where weed was cool. Like a cigarette. You was a little risque, you being a little fast. It made you happy, hungry, or horny. Now there's a different concoction. Brains, don't get it twisted. It is about supply and demand. And now there is a pot shop next to every coffee shop. And they are genetically modifying the seeds. I mean, how many plants do you know that have no stems and have no seeds? Marijuana was, again, for those three things. Now it stops anxiety. Now it increases your appetite. Now it will decrease your appetite. Now it will help with seizures. And again, they're extracting the THC, but they're also making it a synthetic. That's the same thing that happened with cocaine. Back in the day, the Native Americans would grab the coca leaf and chew it. You're fine. Then somebody figured out how to make it into a powder. Then they turned into crack. And look at us now. There is a habit to smoking and there is a comfort to smoking. Do you help people? I know the cigarette and nicotine is your specialty, but vaping, one other thing. I go to the vape store with my niece. Oh, Auntie, it's the coolest thing. You got to vape. You got to vape. I said, well, let me go check it out. I go in there. I asked the guy behind the counter, I see all these different flavors, and I'm like, this might be cool. What's in it? He said there was 4 ingredients. Lela, he couldn't name the 4 ingredients. Okay. And I see people with these vaping things and these big plumes of smoke that come out. It's like the more they can ingest and blow out, the prouder they feel. Can you work with people through your program to get them to stop smoking, period? I mean, weed, I know that you're not an addiction. Well, you are an addiction specialist because you work with nicotine. Can you work with people and coach them through this? Because this is an epidemic.
I could, but what I've noticed, and I've had my share of, smoking marijuana in the past, but what I have noticed about the difference between smoking cigarettes, nicotine, and that's why I named my program Nicotine Solutions. And the difference between smoking marijuana or something like that is that marijuana is pretty much like I smoked both, and when I quit smoking cigarettes, I still smoked a little bit of marijuana after, but then I realized that I really didn't need a program for that because marijuana is more psychologically addictive, and but nicotine is physically and emotionally and socially and psychologically and every way in the world, and you really do need a program to quit smoking cigarettes. So I don't think that people really need a program to quit, like vaping or something like that. They just need to really set their mind to.
We can agree to disagree on that. And the reason is, I have a family member. He will light a cigarette, roll a joint, and then get vape. He needs all 3. And I'm like, dude, really?
Yeah.
You leave any capacity in those lungs just for oxygen?
Yeah. And I actually just recommend, you can get the same kind of feeling from the edibles. I think that, if there's a pot store and you can get the edibles, why not do that rather than mess up your lungs?
Right. It's just really, really odd now that they are legalizing it. They have to understand that they're also taxing it. So now the government is making money off of it. And everybody's mass producing it. They're putting steroids to make it grow faster. They're putting pesticides to stop the bugs. They're recycling the water. So it's a lot to it, Brains, okay? So what is your goal? Really, what is your ultimate goal? Is it to get back to programs? Because there is a lot less people that are smoking, but they need the support system. Where are you looking to take this?
Yeah, for a long time, I worked with companies and my program was covered by insurance. And then I stopped doing that for a while, and I'm going back to wanting to work with companies and individuals as well, and also have it covered by insurance. So I'm working to promote my program, Nicotine Solutions, to insurance companies and to companies as well. So if you are you have employees and you want them to quit smoking, I can help them do that.
And you know what? It's a great way just to have a casual conversation, because you don't want to blame people and you don't want to shame them.
Right.
And sometimes the jobs are so cotton picking stressful that you go out and smoke, but then there's a lot of lost productivity with that employee that has to always go out and smoke.
Right.
It is really an impactor in your relationships and how you show up to your children. Is this something that you want your children to do? Or are your children already smoking and you want them to stop? Do you work with young adults?
I do, but they are, going back to the reason that you started, there's the peer pressure, rebellion, and then to look older. And what I found is in young adults, the peer pressure is still active and they still want to look older. And so I found that the most difficult group are young adults. They need to really feel some of the problems with smoking, like, that
Right.
problems with breathing and things like that.
Well, you see a lot of, I see a lot of millennials that are turned off by smoking.
Right.
Weed and vaping, that's something different. But cigarettes, they're not as attractive as and alluring as they
Right.
once were.
Right.
So this is definitely something that I think that people really need to grab a hold to. Addiction in any form is a challenge, and we are all addicted to something, and you're lying brains if you say you're not. It can be
That's
food,
true.
it can be sex, it can be money, it can be power, it can be nicotine. We all have some sort of addiction, but we
Right.
can control that. And
Mhm.
what we have to do is get in the right mindset, work with talented professionals like this one over here, that really know and that have, worked 40 years, been there, done that, smoked it, and really seems that there's not a lot of benefits to it. And what the benefit is and how much money you could save. Could you imagine?
Exactly.
What are cigarettes now? Like almost $10, $11 a pack?
In different areas, they're right around that. Mhm.
Yeah. I remember when my mother used to write a note and I could go to the liquor store and give them a note and get some cigarettes like it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And, now parents don't do that.
No.
And it's not attractive, but it was cool because then you sneak one out of your mama's pack.
Exactly.
And you want it to look older, but again, it will make you look older in not an attractive way. You have these lines here and wrinkles,
It works.
and the smell. And if you are a smoker, I'm gonna say it, do everything you can to get that off of you. When you go into an interview, it lingers in the room. When you extend your hand, it's on your fingers. That business suit that you just got out of the cleaners, it's now saturated with smoke. Don't think people don't know, and don't think people don't judge you. I don't know what the judgment can be, really. Do they think that you're less than because you smoke? What do you think that's about? I don't know what their judgment is around. That they think they're better because they don't smoke? What do people say?
Well, I just think that even smokers, all of them really, if you ask them, all of them really do want to quit. It's just an addiction, and they tried it once and they didn't ever plan on getting hooked. They just wanted to try it because everybody else was. And now that they're hooked, they just need a method to be able to get off of it.
Right. Well, again, that's the difference between a leader and a follower and brain. Okay. Make your own decisions, brains. Okay. What works best for you? And if you feel that smoking is fine, just don't smoke when you come to my house. And I'm gonna still love you. I'm gonna still love you through your circumstance. But one day, it'll hit you across the head, or like me, swell your face all up, and you'll say, "This is not for me." And you will be looking back through my archives, trying to find Lela, and say, "Hey, you know what?" And if you're a company, or if you're a nonprofit organization, I think that this is very beneficial to support, your team, because there's a lot of stress right there. If you are working with millennials, she's real cool. She's hip, she smoked weed before. But and there's nothing wrong with that, but she can relate is what I'm saying. She can communicate with you on that level. So don't be judgmental and don't be too harsh on yourself. Love yourself enough to want to change. Lela, tell my brains how to get in contact with you so that they can do some work, and so that I can get you out there and promote you for people that really need to have this done, because it's not so much in the United States. We've really kind of done it, but in a lot of other countries, there's a lot of smoking going on. I know in Asia, woo, they are really smoking, but their cigarettes are different. They don't have the same smell. Mexico, I went over there, they don't have the same toxic smell in there. So there's still a lot of people that are smoking around the world that you can help.
Right. And I've been doing this so long. I have one of my websites. It's called The Quit Queen, and I have a crown and everything. And so I figured it's the easiest way to remember it. And Nicotine Solutions, not everybody knows how to spell that. So if you just go to thequitqueen.com, and I have a free program that will introduce you to how to get ready to quit smoking, and it's called Quit Smoking Kickstart. And you can learn how to give a little bit of preparation to quitting. Don't just throw the pack away, because that's just going to give your body some real problems, and you don't want to end up in the emergency room or going to the doctor for this, because all you have to do is know how to get prepared to quit, and then you can quit calmly and comfortably forever.
Well, that's wonderful, because I didn't know that there was a preparation. I just thought you had to quit cold turkey. But then I take that back, because there are these patches that people wear. There's, but the drawdown of the cigarette, and some of these brands, I don't even know where they come from. My brother was smoking some unknown brand from, I don't know where, outer space.
Yeah.
And so you don't know what's in them. And it's an expensive habit. So again, we say this not to judge you, shame you, embarrass you. We say it because we love you and we care. Sometimes we love you and care a little bit more than you might love and care for yourself.
That's true.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lela Bryan, for being here on the edge, right here. The place where the conversation is what? Pointed. The guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. Come on back, check it out. I'm going to keep you abreast. I'm going to put all of your contact information on the back of this video, in addition to the links on all the major hotspots, because I want people to feel good about the decisions that they make and the life that they live. Thank you, baby.
Thank you.
Bye, brains.